Hey, it's Sabina from Scratch, and today I've got another web audit for the Rainforest for you. Today it's for Karo Tak, who's an amazing vegan animal rights activist and yoga teacher, and also a vegan chef over at Karo Tak Pink Kitchen on Instagram. I really recommend following her. And she also writes a blog, and her question for us was, how can I reach more people? How can I reach my people and get more exposure for the topics I care about? So let's have a look at Karo's website so you can get to know her just a little bit. This is the homepage. Karo's doing yoga here in the background picture, and we also get to meet Sparky, her little dog. And yeah, really this heading, this hero already tells you everything you need to know about her, except the sustainable development goals that she's working towards. So I've got on my list good health and well-being, gender equality, climate action, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. So yes, Karo, thank you for applying for this audit. We're honored to support you with your blog. Now, we chose a specific blog post to work with, mainly because it's recent, but also because it's a really good example of what Karo wanted to know about. Karo asked us about subheadings in blog posts. Karo blogs with WordPress, as do we, and as do many of our clients. And if you use WordPress to write your blog, you may have come across Yoast, Y-O-A-S-T. That's a plugin that helps you write in a more readable way, but also helps you optimize for search engines. So basically, there's like a traffic light system where Yoast tells you this is not particularly readable, it's too difficult, you should make it simpler, or it's not really optimized for you to be found on the internet. You need to make the following changes in order to optimize for SEO. And one of the things that Karo often sees in Yoast is that it tells her you don't have enough subheadings. And Karo was wondering why that is and what you can do to have better and more subheadings and what they have to do with SEO. So let's get started with that question. When we look at this particular blog post, we can see there aren't really any subheadings, right? There is a bit of pull-out text that's a bit larger. And again, there's like a quote. And then there's stuff that's typed in all caps. I'm not sure if that's a heading actually, or subheading. But really, it's like a long piece of text, and there's not a huge amount of visual structure beyond the images. And so that's difficult for a search engine to understand. The search engine basically looks at your title, so in this case, Black Lives Matter, and all of your subheadings to understand what your article is about and what the structure is. And then based on that information, it performs this memory game of matching a search engine query that somebody's typing into the search field with your article. And the better that's possible, like the easier those are to match, the more likely it is that you appear on the first page. There are other things that come in, like external links to your blog, blogs linking to you, that is, but also you linking out to other pages, you linking within your own website, the quality of those links, how many people come to your page, how long they stay there. There's a lot of different things. But subheadings are one of those things that are relatively easy for us to optimize because it's within the scope of what we do when we write a blog post, right? So I would recommend, if you want to really write better subheadings and add more of them, to change the way you sit down and write a blog post. And this is not just when I say you, I don't just mean Karo, but if you're listening, if you're watching this, if you're reading the transcript and you think, yeah, I've got the same problem, then this is also my advice for you. When you sit down to write, don't just let it all flow. That's one good way to achieve a fantastic blog post, but also have one step, like either at the beginning or at the end, where you think, okay, really the people that I want to reach with this are these, and they're likely to have the following question. And now what do I think are the most important keywords in that question? Or do I even want to use the whole question as my key phrase for this article? So I want to be found for this question. In this particular example with the Black Lives Matter post, it could be a question like, what does yoga have to do with Black Lives Matter? Or it could be why Black Lives Matter is important to ahimsa living, right? If we stick with the Black Lives Matter and yoga connection, then those would be your obvious two keywords, Black Lives Matter and yoga, but you could also make the whole question your key phrase and enter that in Yoast and say, okay, this is what I want to be found for. And that would be a big improvement over the current title. Why is that? Well, Black Lives Matter as the title for this article, it tells me what it's about, but it's also really generic. So I could imagine there being 150 pages on Google or Ecosia or whatever you use, talking about Black Lives Matter. It will be very difficult to stand out there and to rank highly. You'll end up competing with a lot of first-rate publications, big newspapers, TV channels, YouTube influencers, you name it. You'll compete with anyone who's ever written or produced anything to do with Black Lives Matter. And if you make it more specific and you make it just about yoga and Black Lives Matter, then you will only compete with all the other people who've created something about yoga and Black Lives Matter. And so if you make it more specific, the smaller your competition. And yeah, of course, in the social and environmental scene, we don't necessarily like the word competition. It's just the reality of what it is, right? We can't read all of the stuff on the internet. We can't watch every single video on the internet. We need to find something that we want to give our attention to, and that matches our intent and what we're looking for. So if it's really a courtesy, if you use a more specific title or heading, then it's going to be easier for your people to find that piece of content. And then you can also go and say, okay, so if this article is about the relationship between yoga and Black Lives Matter, which bits do I want to cover in this article? And then you can list them out just as a bullet point list. It could be 3 points, could be 5 points, could be 10 points, whatever. But you write them all down and then you put them into the right order. And this could be before you sit down to write the article or after the fact. I often do it after the fact. I sometimes find that I get kind of stuck if I'm working from a list, but sometimes it can also give me new ideas, you know, and it can highlight where I need to do a bit of research or dig out a book that I read like a year ago and I want to refresh my memory and quote from that book or whatever. So both ways are fine. And some people do it both before they sit down to write and afterwards to check, have I got everything? But really what those bullet points then do is they provide the structure for your article, and that structure is like the skeleton, and your text will float on that skeleton. And any search engine will look at that skeleton in determining what your article is about, what the structure is, and also what the mini internal topics are that they could recommend to people who are looking for something that is related to one of your bullet points. And those bullet points really could be your subheadings. Perhaps you want to fluff them up a bit. Maybe you want to add a bit more style to them. Maybe there's some editing you later want to do, but you can see if you can fit your main keywords like yoga and Black Lives Matter into as many of those subheadings as possible, because that way it's going to be really easy for the search engine to understand that it's all related, it's still about the same topic, and this way it can send the right people your way. So we haven't got that here. One thing I've done is I've gone through and indicated where it would make sense for this article to have subheadings and what they could be. And I've done that in Brunch. That's the tool that we use for all of our web and email audits. And I'm going to just quickly show you what that looks like. It looks like this. It's exactly the same as the blog post that we've just had in front of us, just with blue dots and a bit of a bar at the bottom. So each of those blue dots has a comment from me. And you can add a comment here, Karo. This is just for you. Nobody else has access to this. And yes, so everywhere you see a blue button or a blue dot, I've left a comment. You can also go to 20 comments here down in the bar, and then they will all come up in the order I gave them. And also what you get is a performance review. So when you click on performance at the bottom, it will tell you that the performance is not so good. Accessibility, best practices, and SEO, on the other hand, are really, really good. So from a technical point of view, which is what this report is about, SEO is performing really well. The only thing that I think would really be worth improving here is the performance. And the main thing here is load time. So if you can find any way to increase load time, decrease load time, so increase the speed at which your page loads, Karo, then that would be beneficial. You can see the full report when you click here, Karo. It's really technical. So if you work with a web designer or a web developer, they will appreciate this. It's beyond the scope of copywriting. That's for sure. So yeah, that's really how subheadings work. I'm going to add a link to the transcript, which you'll see be at the bottom of this video, which will link to this, because Yoast also has an article about how to use headings on your site, and it's really well explained. So what I've told you today is a bit more practical with an example. This is a bit more theoretical, but do check it out if you want to dive into that. The key thing, just to summarize, is for you to think about the key phrase or a couple of keywords that belong together and that you want your article to rank for. So basically what you want to be found for, and you put that into your heading or title. You can say either to the title of your blog post. And then the subheadings, in WordPress, you can set them as H2 to I think H7 or 8. I think potentially it's endless, but most people use H2, H3, and potentially H4. So this indicates a priority. Your title is H1. The next level of your article is H2. And then if within that paragraph, you want to have another subheading, that would be H3. And then when you talk about a completely different topic, you make it H2 again, and so on. But that's the technical bit of how to use WordPress. That's probably less important. The most important thing is develop a structure for your article, and each point that you want to cover is a subheading, and then in the text underneath, you unfold that topic and talk about it. After 300 words or so, you add a new subheading for another topic. And that's how it works. So, Karo, I hope this has been useful for you, and it's given you the answer that you've been looking for. And everyone else who's been watching, same here, right? I hope this has been useful to you too. If you have any questions about this topic or any other topic to do with your own website, feel free to either apply for a web audit for the Rainforest, which you'll find on fromscratch.net/freebies, and it's the first thing there. Or if you want more than one page audited, you can always buy the big audit that we also offer, which covers 3 URLs and also means that we'll write some copy for you. You'll see the link to the web audit in the transcript and also in the video at the very end. And this has been Karo's web audit. Lovely to have you. See you soon. Bye for now.